let's kick the show into gear. So this is Amma. Today is Friday the 3rd of April 2020. We are all indoors. We could call this series Corona Diaries, but I think that's very depressing. So it is still Amma Muses. And when Amma muses, she usually does so from her bed. So let's talk. There is a very famous saying which says money is the root of all evil. I don't know. That has been playing on my mind recently. I don't think that I'm happy with that statement. I want to actually change that statement. I want to contend with something. Dependency is the root of all evil. Dependency is the root of all evil. And I'll explain. I am actually addressing my sisters, but this is not just applicable to my sisters. This is also applicable to men. Many good men have ended up in many situations with women, and it's something to do with dependency. So I'm going to start from there. A young man is very capable. A young man is raised to work. He is raised to be the head of the family. He is raised in many ways, but he is handicapped in maintenance of the home, in the maintenance of his affairs, particularly in managing to find food for himself. Because the way we are raised, especially from the community I come from, we are raised for women to provide certain things and for men to do certain things. And by that simple premise, is the man handicapped in the affairs of his home? Most men don't know how their kids are being raised, so they depend on the women to raise the kids. So usually when there's a divorce, the kids are going to go to stay with the mother. And when that happens, a lot of you lose access. It's because you became dependent on the woman for providing childcare services in the first place. Some of you, because you don't know how to cook, and because somebody forgot to tell you that restaurants exist, that there are takeaway services. Now there are services where they package everything into boxes with a recipe and you do it yourself. Thank you very much. Because you don't know these things, you think that women should provide those services, so you go seeking women just for that purpose. And a lot of you have ended up with women you don't love, with women you don't even get along with, but because you needed a service, you've gone there and you stuck. Or sometimes you end up marrying the person or having a couple of kids with the person, and then you are trapped and you want out. And the reason why you ended up there in the first place is because you are dependent. Dependency cuts across so many levels. If you are a man and you are not able to provide, and you depend on family members, you depend on friends, you depend on, I don't know, your wife, whoever you depend on, you actually hand power to this person, and it makes you a future subject of abuse. Because it is human nature to abuse places where we have authority. That's how we are. That is how we are wired. So anytime you grant that agency over somebody, it is one more person you have created as a potential abuser in the future. This is the typical life of many women. The way we are raised is fundamentally flawed, even for the boys, but particularly for the girls. When a girl is born, you are taught to play with dolls. You are getting ready for motherhood. You are taken to the kitchen and you are skilled up and made competent in the kitchen. In some cases, these days, you are allowed to go to school. But that's not really a focus in most places. They don't really, you go because a girl child has to go to school. But most of the resources, most of the time, is actually spent developing the boys. The boys are the ones who are raised to look out for themselves, to go seek for themselves. The boys are made less dependent than the girls, and that's why the girls are more likely to be the subject of abuse. And because of this, you depend on your father to provide, and then you begin to depend on your brothers to provide, and this has caused havoc in many marriages because the sisters are waiting for their brother to provide. And if the brother is married to a woman who provides herself, who contributes meaningfully in the house, then obviously it's a problem if money is going to be siphoned from her home to pass on to another woman who also has the same capabilities as her, but refusing to do anything because they've been raised to be dependent, brings a lot of problems. So yesterday, Ophelia Goldheart, salute to you, my sister. I went to Ophelia's video. Ophelia was talking about it being a man's world. This is the real reason why it is a man's world. It is a man's world because the man is less dependent than the woman. It's that simple. It is a man's world because the women are raised to be dependent on the man. And anytime somebody depends on you, you have power, agency over them, and you are now in a position to abuse that relationship whenever you want. Whenever you want. The more dependent you are, the more likely it is you will be abused. Ophi was talking about women. A woman has a child with one man. The man is irresponsible. He's a goat. The relationship ends, and this sister has the kid. In the typical black community setting, this woman doesn't now feel that they would be able to mind their own kids, that they might be able to raise their own kids on their own. The first thing society says to this woman is you have to find a man to help you raise the kids. You need to find a man who will help pay the bills. You need to find a man who will provide for you. And so this sister goes out in pursuit of a man. A man now knows that this sister is labeled born one, born two, vulnerable woman. And when you are vulnerable, you attract abusive people. It's just an advert. I am ready for abuse, and they come crawling in. You will get all the creepy crawlies coming towards you because you have placed the label on your head by your attitude and what you are looking for. So you will find a man, and he will begin to tell you how weak you are in society because you are now born one. How he is the only man likely to look at you because you are now born one. That you really don't have any prospects in this life because you are now born one. Does that ring a bell, sis? Does that ring a bell? So this guy also goes on another stormy relationship with you. He takes all he can, and because he's already laid the foundations and told you have nowhere else to go, you see the red flags, but you have to stay. After all, you're looking for a man to help you raise this kid. This man is not helping you raise Jack, but at least he's a man and he's there, and maybe he throws a penny or two. So you hang on to the penny or two for dear life, even though you know fundamentally for the relationship this is wrong. You are not actually in the relationship for the man. You are in that relationship because of what you can get. And he knows this very well, and he will exploit it as much as he can. Let's continue. Then the thought comes to most women, maybe if I have a child with him too, he might stay. Mistake. You have a child and the men see entrapment. Sometimes they even go ahead to marry you. But then it becomes a problem for you and the original child you had in the first place. Oh yes. They will let you know how much of a favor they are doing you by adopting your other child. It weakens your position even more. You are not able to say much after that point. Sis, do you see dependency is the root of all your evils? A young girl is born. Let me finish that story anyway. This woman now has 2 children. This guy stays and does a bit. Most of them don't even marry you. And off they hop, they trot again. And you are back in the market looking for another man now to help you raise 2 kids. You will attract a leech at this point. Leech, the lowest of the lives. And he will come, he will exploit, he will abuse. And that's why people tell you that single mothers are the most vulnerable people in life. And it comes from this attitude. Sis, listen to me. In this life, you have 2 choices. You either strive to get your own, which is my choice, or you depend to be served. Option number 2. Each one of them has pros and cons. So let me give you the pros of my choice. My choice is to do it myself. I am married, but I am not dependent even whilst I'm married. My choice is to get my own. my choice is to chase life like the men do. I was actually born a girl, but I was raised a boy by a woman who did not have a son at that time. So this woman, when she raised me actually for most periods of the time when I was growing up. I've told you my family circumstances. My mom and I spent a lot of time on our own. So I was her son, I was her daughter, I was everything, and she raised me as such. And for that reason, because of the way she raised me, I was raised, and my dad reinforced that so strongly. They told me how capable I was, you could do this for yourself, you don't need to depend. So, okay, that's the choice I made. The advantages are that you are independent, you can do things for yourself, you don't depend on people to do stuff. And usually, now, when I need people to do stuff, it's a transactional basis. So there are some people who have dealt with me and become quite insulted, because one of the first things I discuss with people when you want to do projects with me is money. What remuneration do you want? What compensation do you want? What payments do you want? And people are like, well, why are you like that? I am like that because I want it to be transactional. I don't want to finish an episode owing you much. I don't. And when I explain myself to people, they understand in the end, but it's a bit different because my attitude is quite unique, really. Anyway, those are the advantages. You control some things, you are not indebted to many people. The disadvantages are that you will have to work like a dog, and that's the truth. You will break your back sweating. That's the truth. Ask the men. That's exactly what they experience. You will have to toughen it out, and you will have to be ready for battle, to go scramble, and get for yourself. You will have to be prepared to sweat. There is no rest when you make that choice. Be clear about it. That independence is very expensive physically. That independence is very, very time demanding. That independence might be the reason why you see me with no fancy nails. Don't get time to do that. No fancy hair. Don't have time for that either. Lack of sleep. Absolutely, because I'm busy chasing. Advantages and disadvantages. You cannot be a princess. You cannot be a slave queen when you make that choice. There is very little lying in bed. There's very little messing about. There is very little time for looking pretty. So the women who make these choices understand the looking pretty, having the relaxed life, not for that choice. The woman who chooses to go the other side, let's start with the advantages. The advantages of being a kept woman is you are a woman of leisure. You get a lot of time to look pretty. Actually, looking pretty is part of your trade. You will have to tighten your muscles. Your vagina needs to have a diamond on the top. You have to do Italian waxing, followed by whatever shaving, followed by waxing of your nails, cuticle adjustment, blah de blah de blah, because the tool of your trade becomes your body. In the first choice, the tool of your trade is your brain, followed by your hands, and you do things yourself. By the second choice, the tool of your trade is how beautiful the body is. So you spend most of your time in salons. You spend it doing your hair. You make up and you do whatever so that you can please a man so he can provide. You get a lot of time for leisure. The great disadvantage is that the person you depend on now calls the shots. He controls everything. If he wants to take from the front you have to give him. If he wants to take from the side, you sure have to provide. If he wants it from the back, sis, you are providing. If he comes at 2 a.m., so be it. 3 a.m., if he wants to bring the dog, the cat, and everybody to come join in, sis, you provide, because you see, you need to eat like the rest of us. You are now you are a puppet in somebody's hands at this point. So the advantages of actually having time to yourself is also matched by the disadvantage of the emotional onslaught that comes from this choice. If you are not pleasing this person and the person begins to withdraw, God Almighty, you are in trouble. God Almighty, you are in trouble. If you begin to age and you begin to flap, ooh, sister, you are God Almighty, sorry for you. So you see, each choice has advantages. You break your back in the first choice, and you actually might end up breaking your back doing some styles and doing extreme things in the second choice. You've seen women inflating their bottoms, people sucking this, people tightening this, people pulling here, people doing this in option 2 because you have to take care of this as your main tool of the trade. Whatever you do have consequences, and it is up to each individual what works for you. But what I've come to know in this life is that dependency, the minute you become dependent on somebody, you've made them a potential candidate of abuse. You have to understand this. Dependency is the root of all evil. I have employed people that I've paid, but when I have paid them, I have been busy doing other things, and I have made them know that I couldn't do what they do. Mistake. Because by that simple declaration, I have said to them that I am dependent on them to do that particular thing. And 100% of the time that I have made this fundamental mistake with people, no matter, I've done it with kinsmen, I've done it with strangers, the outcome is the same. The minute a person feels or thinks or believes that they are the only ones who can provide something for you, even if you pay them, it grants them some agency, and they begin to misbehave. They begin to hold you to ransom. I have cancelled many contracts with people as a result of this. So what I have learned in business, and that's why a lot of you ask me, Amma, why are you a jack of all trades? Because I do not want to be dependent on anybody. Not personally, not in business, and not in any interactions of mine. I learned graphic design because of this. My graphic designers began to think that they run my company. My graphic designers were telling me what to do, and I was becoming a puppet in my own company. And I realized that couldn't be. So I went out and learned how to graphic design, and I learned to become a very competent and skilled one. And you know what? Just so I could put the nail in the coffin, I taught my son to be a graphic designer. So now in my home, we have two very skilled, two very competent graphic designers now training my daughter to also join. I want us all to be capable. I want us all to... Now, if I actually employ graphic designers, they know what I can do. When I ask people to do stuff, they know it's because I want to give them something to do, not that I can't do them. People will go on my website and they're like, "Whoa, are you building that yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I sure am." And when I need people to do stuff for me, these days I have learned to give them specific tasks, but the overview lies with me. Because of this, when you depend on people, they are all potential candidates of your abuse. Understand the simple thing. Please understand the simple thing. Listen, even if you pay people, how many of you have taken house helps and you've made them the chief executives of your kitchen and the cleaning of your home? And after a while, you begin to discover the attitude of these paid staff begin to shift because they've come to know you depend on them. You pay them, just as in the story of my graphic designers. But when they think that they are indispensable, when a person thinks that you need them to survive, it grants them a certain agency, and 100% of the time, it is human nature for people who've been granted agency to abuse it. For young people, young ladies, this is my advice. Sis, men are wicked because they are humans. Women are also wicked. But men are wicked. It's an anthem a lot of women actually sing because women are dependent. If you are a young lady, you are just about to start your life, let me tell you the simple thing. You see, the men, they have one brain and they have two hands, and they are able to go strive and find what to eat. The best thing for you to do is for you to strive and find what you can also eat. To set up your own little nest. I know society will tell you, you can't find a husband. Well, what do you need a husband for in the first place? Because society used to tell women to find husbands to provide. You don't need a husband. You don't need a husband. You want one. You want one. You have to understand the two words and the differences between them. You don't need a husband. You want a husband. In order not to need a husband, you've got to set up your own little nest. You've got to know how to feed yourself. You've got to know how to manage your own affairs. You've got to be in control of your little circle. When you have established your little circle, when you have already provided for yourself, the right kind of man will be attracted to you. The man who will be attracted to you will be the kind of man who is so self-comfortable. A man who is so comfortable in their identity, they are not threatened by you. It will take a long time to find this man. Be clear about it, because they are rare. They are very rare. But you don't want to mess with the other group anyway, because they are all abusers. They are your potential abusers. You don't want to be a candidate for abuse. You better wait for the right one. Keep setting your nest. Keep commanding your space. Keep owning your identity. Being honest about who you are. And eventually, you will settle this. So there's a famous thing about women who marry in their 30s and the kind of men they attract. This is the truth. This is the God honest truth. By age 30, most women would have established their own little nest. They are selective women. So the women who wait, the women who are selective, when they finally get married, they are less likely to be the subject of, I will not buy this for you if you don't do this for me, because they can buy it themselves. They are less likely to be the victims of, I will not send money home to your mother, because they send money to their own mothers anyway. They are less likely to be the subject of, if you don't do this, I will not buy this for the kids, because they can buy it for the kids anyway. I will not. That is the life of a woman who chooses to be dependent. And the emotional abuse, the emotional onslaught, because of that choice, cannot be underestimated. And it cannot be overemphasized either. Pay attention to some fundamentals, and you will not fall victim to some of these things. Fundamental number one, there is nothing like a free lunch. I don't provide free lunch. When I provide free lunch, I'm sweetening you up for something. No man provides free lunch, says nobody. Fundamental number two, society and nobody else owes you jack. We don't owe you anything. The fact that you've got a kid and you are struggling, and so what? Why is it my business? I am also with 2 children and I'm struggling. He is also struggling, even if he doesn't have kids. He doesn't owe you sponsorship of your kids. Those are your kids, and it's your job to find meaningful ways of providing for yourself and your kids, and understand the process of finding that provision is going to break your back. It's going to make you sweat. That is a fundamental of life. Don't go into life with expectancy, because if you go into life with expectancy, you will receive dependency and its potential abuse afterwards. Ask your mom. Ask any elderly woman. Ask any wise person, and they will tell you, what I'm telling you is not a lie. What I'm telling you is not fabricated. What I'm telling you is a God honest truth. Sis, listen to me. Listen to me. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that. And teach this to your little girls from the very beginning. Raise them to be willing to find it for themselves. To not wait for a brother to provide. To not wait for a sister to provide. And certainly not expect a stranger, a man from somewhere else, to come provide. Because when that happens, they are setting a contract up for abuse. It is unfortunate. It would be nice if there was somebody who would provide without expectations. Some of them will do so for years, and you might never know the intention. But believe me, what you are doing is setting yourself up for heartache. So as I said, today is the 3rd of April. Amma is sitting in a certain bed with my arms folded, watching life, lying, relaxing, listening to strange music in the background. And one of the reasons why Amma is able to do so is because Amma works bleedingly hard to not be dependent. Amma does strive. Amma finds a bit of agency for herself. Is the hard work worth every bit of what I get in terms of liberties and freedoms? Hell yes. Hell yes. Will I make the same choices if I had another life? Oh yes. Maybe I'll even pursue those options more aggressively when and if I have another life. You want freedom? You better work for it. You want liberties? You better work for it. You don't want to work, expect that when you become dependent, you are the subject of abuse. It might not be immediate, it will come later. It is coronavirus time. Money is tight. Everybody's crying, including me. My own money is not coming, and I'm crying. But you know, whatever comes to my hand is in my hand, and I get to control a little bit of what happens. If I want to buy a lip gloss for myself today, I can go and get it. No need to discuss, no need to explain. That freedom is wonderful. Try it. Speak to other people and they'll tell you how amazing that freedom is. But it comes at a cost. Okay, so as I was saying, if you're interested in liberties, if you're interested in freedom, there is a price to pay. If you're interested in being a kept woman, there is a price to pay. You need to understand your choices. You need to understand that I am still contending that dependency is the root of all evil. Dependency is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil, they say. But the recipients of the evil are the dependent ones. The ones who provide tend to be the ones who inflict the evil onto the recipients. Make sure that you are in a position in your life that you are not receiving from anybody. Because anybody you expect from, anybody you receive from, is your potential abuser. It is Amma Manson. And when I muse from my bed, I always bring the big elephants. They always make you uncomfortable. They always challenge you. But if you are wise, if you pay attention to the fundamentals, there should be a lesson or two from each one of them. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you soon. And for those of you who like this intrigue, I will be straight back up with this from our own setting, in our own lingua, with our own examples. Bye. Future